So if we're ready, we can grab our remote and get our thumbs on the play button. Is everyone ready?
Hunter, did we want to say something about this episode just briefly?
That's true. I did want to give a trigger warning for this episode. There is a depiction of attempted sexual assault. So if that does bother you, I would suggest maybe not watching the episode if that's something that you'll be uncomfortable with. Yeah, that's it. Anything else anyone want to add?
Prediction.
Okay, prediction. What's a prediction?
This is about werewolves.
Yeah, I was thinking it was about werewolves too.
Nice. All right. Any other predictions? Comments? No? We're good? Everybody ready? We have our fingers on the play button.
Yep.
Alrighty. On the count of 3, we will start. 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, our voiceover guy is back.
I didn't get a voiceover. Are you on the right episode?
Yeah, I didn't get a
I didn't get a voiceover either.
I'm watching on Amazon tonight.
Yeah, I got one, but I'm on Amazon.
Yeah, there's not one on Hulu.
I'm being bad, Hunter. I'm watching it on Amazon.
You've seen it before. That's fine.
Pretty sure that that's the LA Zoo at Griffith Park.
It's the Santa Ana Zoo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about you guys, but I've never had a principal come on a field trip.
I don't remember ever coming with us either.
Oh no, we usually take either a principal or a vice principal for elementary and junior high.
Nope.
This is high school though.
I haven't been in high school, but I don't remember my high school trips, but I can say as a teacher, when we go on a trip, we usually pick a principal or a vice principal.
I also would say it would differ based on the size of the school.
That's true.
I think that guy.
It's also different if it's a class or a whole school going.
Jody, I think you said something, but I couldn't hear you.
Positively no admittance.
Do mean kids like that really exist anymore? Hasn't it all just moved online?
And they definitely don't say they're in.
They exist.
I don't know if mean kids like that, like existing would depend on like the size of the school as well. Mine was very small and everybody knew everybody because if we didn't go to the same elementary school, we went to the same middle school. So we just kind of grew up with each other. And I mean, in the circles that I ran in, that never really existed. And from what I've heard, that sort of bullying and intolerance never really existed either. But, you know.
Yeah, my daughter's school population is 2,800 and it still happens.
Yeah, my son's is about the same as yours, and they're there.
This is the worst cage.
100.
Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
Sorry, my like high school population at most is like 800, so it's like 200 per class. Sometimes it's less, so that's why I was like, I don't know. Mine was on the tinier side.
This is the worst cage for a hyena.
These are the worst looking hyenas, though.
What do you mean?
Worse than the vampire makeup?
All right, so not werewolves, were hyenas.
Were hyena.
Were hyenas.
Where
It looks like that Tumblr account for bad taxidermy.
Okay, it was creepy that we're all laughing at the same time.
Yeah, bad timing.
But Xander he's the one hyena in the group that can contain his laughter.
Because he's built different.
He's the head hyena.
Does that mean he's more psychotic?
He's more of a smirking hyena.
The legend or the folklore that the zookeeper was telling there about the hyenas being able to understand human speech and call out names or whatever, that's actually an Ethiopian lore about hyenas.
I think in hyena packs, the leader of the pack is typically female.
Yes,
isn't
they
it?
are. Yeah, they are.
That's
So it's
what I
kind of
thought.
inaccurate.
Head go tingly. Honey.
90s.
He's a honey.
generally speaking, sniffing people is a phobia.
LOL.
Did you just say LOL?
So the hyena possession has made them more of bullies?
Like betas.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Who's a dangerous little piggy.
Oh my gosh, that pig is so stinking cute. I want it.
Hunter, what's your timestamp? I can't watch this on Amazon.
I told you. It is 11:09 right now.
Is it that bad, Chris?
Yes.
She's talking about close-ups. I'm like, what close-up?
The crafting and
Well,
editing.
it's all, but it's also that you're off because of the intro, I think.
No, it's the way it looks.
Yeah, they have an automatic zoom thing on the Amazon one. It's just you don't get the whole picture. So
I'll have to put my DVD on the TV and have the online one on my PC to compare one time.
it's a trip, I tell you. Every time there's a crop scene, this is a drinking game. In and
I feel like you'd get hammered pretty quick.
Kendra, you're in love with the pig?
Yes, he's precious. Look at him in his little pig size, like football helmet. He's just so cute.
You want to just kiss on his little nose.
Remind me, Kendra, this is your first viewing of Buffy, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, is something gonna happen to the pig? I'm gonna cry.
he's a fierce razorback, don't worry. I don't know about you all, but dodgeball is not allowed here in most schools in Florida.
Because it's too violent with how hard they hit each other.
Yeah.
For good reason. For good reason. I've seen students go to a hospital from the.
My boys grew up in school like playing dodgeball. They still play it here.
I mean, it's such a strange.
Preschool.
It's such a strange sport. I mean, the concept is just to hit somebody. I mean, it really is like, it's like boxing.
Yeah,
I
pretty
would love
much.
to watch Buffy play some dodgeball. She would totally body the other team. I mean, come on now. I would totally watch that. I'm watching it right now.
Ouch.
That was not a good hit.
And like, I mean, especially when sometimes it's, you know, those balls that are, they're just so old that they've lost all of their treading around there. They're kind of shiny, and they just sting when they hit skin.
How does the teacher just sit there and let that happen?
I was just going to say the same thing.
Teacher.
Ooh, it's raining outside.
We always use foam balls instead of those rubbery ones. So is that just a television thing, or
no, that's like an
No.
that was also an 80s thing for me. Like I was in elementary and junior high. We didn't do that in high school, but in elementary and junior high we did that. And like, yeah, our balls were those red, exactly like that, those red balls, and some of them were just so old. And man, they just stung when you got hit by one.
They leave a mark.
And they make that kind of bang,
Yeah, that's
kind
that
of sound when
yeah.
oh man, and you just know you'd have a big welt.
And I'm pretty sure that my elementary PE teacher was a functioning alcoholic, and he enjoyed watching that kind of brutality.
Well, just like the coach here at the end just said, you know, it's a brutal game. Like,
no, my teacher was like that. He would pick on the weak people too. Like, he was a big bully. So yeah, totally believable.
I do like how this like kind of whole metaphor of like you know, bullies laughing at one another, how that's kind of being put into this weird like hyena mystical thing, you know. But like laughter as like a form of bullying is, you know, a huge part of the high school experience.
Yeah, and Xander has become fully indoctrinated in this.
That was so mean to Willow.
Oh no.
They
No way.
not.
If they do, I'm done. No way. And I'm not cool with that if they eat this pig.
No. They better leave Herbert alone.
This really should have come with a trigger warning too.
Yeah,
Guys.
I mean major trigger warning.
I couldn't
on
decide
that.
what to say.
Did they really? No.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry now.
No pigs were actually harmed during this episode. In real life, Kendra, it's okay.
And if you're collecting music from this is actually my friend's band, Far. My friend Jonah is the one singing right now.
You're friends with Far?
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love their version of Pony.
For them. Oh yes, that's my
It's
favorite.
the best cover.
These are all the oldest high schoolers I've ever seen.
I mean, 25-year-old teenager.
25-year-old teenagers.
She, you must not have seen 90210 because they had 30-something teenagers.
Oh, I love 90210.
I mean, Andrea Zuckerman looked like she was somebody's mom.
Okay, you do not need to adjust your screen here. These are close-ups. They're supposed to.
Yeah, and on Amazon, you might only see a nose hair.
An ear.
Oh, Willow.
Willow's cry face is just like, it breaks your heart.
Just an FYI, if a dude or even a girl sniffs you like that, that's a big red flag. Run.
You mean you don't like to be sniffed by people, Anna?
Not particularly.
John, did you catch that reference?
I didn't.
I can't believe you of all people are trying to scully me.
Mulder and Scully.
Oh, goodness. But this was happening. This was on the air at the same time as X-Files.
Yep.
That's cool. I like that. I like when shows reference like current pop culture. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. At least we didn't have to see it.
Yeah, it's still network TV, so they wouldn't have shown it.
I would think eating a live pig would be cause for expulsion.
Yeah, I don't know where the tension thing came in. Like, Hey, Kendra, this would be very interesting to you. The book that Giles is consulting is called the Malus Maleficarium, and it was actually banned by the Pope in the 15th century because it's a historical text on which.
Ooh, I wonder if it's still printed.
I don't know. I'll send you the name. And the picture they just showed in the text there is actually from Dante's.
I would not want to be alone with those people.
Oh, guess what? You can buy that book. Hell yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good distraction from this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Whoa, are they gonna kill this guy and eat him?
Bye-bye, Principal Flutie.
Are you kidding?
We've entered Buffy the Vampire Slayer world.
What?
A little less innocent than maybe you thought.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Holy crap. They ate him, man.
Yeah. Maybe.
There's that let's make up a theory thing.
I definitely wouldn't have theorized anybody any of the characters already established in the series being eaten in this episode.
Yeah, that's not one you would naturally get around to. How are we feeling about Willow's safety at this point?
Not good.
I don't like her being alone with Xander right now.
She loves him even though he's a wild animal.
Okay. You got to let me know if a baby gets eaten before we get there, because if that's the case, I won't be able to watch the rest of it.
They just ate.
You're okay, John. Don't worry.
If you're joining us for the first time, we are watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 1, Episode 4, and we are at timestamp 31 minutes and 20 seconds.
Episode 6.
Episode 6, sorry.
He's so calm. Maybe he's better. Or not.
Hi, Tommy, down on the beanbags. I see you are joining us for the first time. Feel free to come up on the couch if you wish. Just wait. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Mary?
Oh no, I was just saying, or not. Maybe he's not so
This guy knows a little way too much.
Yeah, he's kind of shady.
She's very obsessed with watching those hyena videos.
She likes to learn, you know.
That was a funny cut.
Would have been a commercial, I think.
Yeah, I know. In the original, it would have been Willow, and then suddenly a commercial. An odd cut to commercial.
I will say, like, when watching it when it came out, it was kind of creepy because the way it cut to commercial and it was just dark for a minute. I remember that moment.
Oh, they miss Xander.
The blonde guy is just so bad.
I feel like she should have kept that fire hydrant thing.
How many hits like with a surprise hits with a fire hydrant or not that's a fire extinguisher have happened in film and television, do you think, over the history of the fire extinguisher?
Probably
thousands.
I was gonna say
tens of thousands.
That seems like a very common thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing. It's like 9 times out of 10, it's that or a chair.
I also feel like it probably was used to open a lot of doors, like hit the doorknob.
Doorknobs, windows, and knocking somebody out, like out of surprise. Just drive and run them over.
He doesn't have
the keys. They forgot.
Oh, right. Yes.
You're getting a lot of kicks this episode.
I just want her to kick Xander's head clear off of his body.
I concur, John.
Don't hold back on your feelings now, John.
I mean, main character, they want me to like him for the rest of the series. That's going to be hard for me to come back from.
But it's not his fault.
I mean, still, it's hard.
I don't understand why you're leaving a teenage girl alone in the dark outside. You're the damn teacher.
Zookeeper is one of them.
I feel like this is a trap.
Oh, jeez.
And Giles is knocked out again.
This poor watcher. He's always knocked unconscious.
I was just gonna say he's a watcher. He's supposed to be just watching.
This dude looks like a wrestler with just a really bad costume.
I was thinking that too, Kendra.
We really should check Giles for CTE because he gets knocked out pretty much every episode.
Yeah, this is number 3.
That's true.
Willow, don't just stand there and let people
Willow's
tie you up.
Willow's like, wait, what? Why are you tying me up right now?
She's smart. She's gonna figure it out.
Again, worst cage to hold something.
He was right. They hadn't been fed.
Nah.
Oh.
Definitely not. Nothing really that awful.
No.
Buffy's look here is very interesting to me.
What, like a criminal girl?
Yeah, the beanie, it's very cute, but slightly off-putting to me.
So
Maybe she has to go do some slaying right after school, so she's got to be dressed and ready.
So Xander's feigning, not remember.
But you do realize that means that the other 4 remembering eating Flutie. Like,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah, eating Flutie, almost wanting to eat a little kid, interested in eating a baby.
Oh, that's horrible. I
Not
never
really
made that connection.
Yeah.
And Xander will remember his almost assault and eating the
totally. Yeah, that's now a part of the series.
Central.
For me, that's a part of the series going forward.
It is. Yep, it is.
I won't forget that. Every time I see Xander, I think, at least for the time being, I won't forget that.
I don't know how those kids would be able to function in life with those memories. I would assume intense therapy would be
Right.
I don't know.
They're shit human beings beforehand, so they probably already had things going on in their lives, so that probably did not improve any of that.
So for the new people watching, especially those who were expecting werewolves, what did you think of the episode? And did it meet or exceed your expectations?
I knew it wasn't werewolves because I cheated. Like, I've read the synopsis of every episode from this whole season. I can't help myself. But it was better than I expected. I was pleasantly surprised.
Even with the pig.
I was gonna say, except for the pig.
I'm on the other.
Pig.
I'm the opposite. I wasn't into the episode at all, and it reminded me of why in general horror is just not my genre.
This is one of my least acceptable episodes of the entire series. FYI.
I mean, that makes sense to me because I think it's definitely like, as of so far, it's the most horrific episode that we've seen so far. There have been lots of like paranormal-y episodes and monster-y episodes, and lots of stuff like playing with tropes and stuff. But when you get into like eating a human being that you've actually developed a relationship to through some of the stuff, when you like flirt with the idea of like eating children and families and stuff, that actually to me is that's like flirting with like real legit like horror in the sort of torturous type of horror, like where you're starting to get close for me to like Saw and all of that kind of stuff, where like where that happens, even though we didn't actually see any of it, just like the thought of like, I mean, we didn't get like, not like I have like a deep relationship to the principal, but he's been in several episodes. I know who he is. I've kind of gotten some relationship, and like the thought that he was like eaten by these students is kind of is like stuck with me now. And definitely, I mean, Xander didn't do it, so I guess that's okay. We'll probably not see any of these characters again, the kids ever again, because they strike me as your one-time actor on the show type characters. And like eating a eating a pig in this context bothers me, because it's not like this is a farm raised pig that is, like they've already established the pig as a sort of mascot pet style creature. So to me, it feels very similar to when pets, like beloved pets of a character in a story, are killed brutally, and I don't like that either. If there's like a horror movie where somebody's dog and you've gotten in any way, been allowed to develop any relationship to that dog or to that cat or to that pet in any way, and then you see or it alludes to them being killed, that pet being killed in a really horrible way. And maybe that's just because I have pets, and that just, the thought of that happening to my pet is just so horrific. And that's what I think makes this particular episode leave the realm of supernatural fiction and monster fiction, which I don't really particularly think is that scary, and go into like real like terror and horror, which is just not my thing at all.
I agree with what you say. I think that's why I do like this episode before, because I wasn't expecting it. And, this is the 6th episode of, the series. And, after watching Witch and then Teacher's Pet, you're like, okay, we're kind of spoofy and not really, it doesn't touch a nerve, too bad or anything. But I think the common theme, even the last episode with Don't Kill a Boy on the First Date, is horror. And this definitely solidifies the show as horror, but also is, repeatedly letting you know that innocent people are not safe at all. With which, Amy, the girl, her mother took her body, and Teacher's Pet, the virgins were not safe. Don't Kill a Boy on the First Date. The child is the anointed one. So it continues more horrifically, obviously, but it continues a theme of no one here is protected from anything happening.
Yeah, but until this episode, everything still felt very like monster spooky light.
Yeah.
There wasn't really, there's like, fighting a vampire. Even in like Teacher's Pet, like they're in cages and she's coming close and she's about to eat them, but then something happens and somebody saves the day and they get out from being killed. Like, up until this episode, it just feels very like campy monster movie, and to me that doesn't feel horror. I don't really associate that with horror. That's just a little bit more just kind of campy monster movie. Whereas I do associate like horror with like psychological horror and torture horror, like all of that stuff that really kind of found its own in the early aughts, and with stuff like Saw and that kind of move into that sort of torturous horror. And then also just in general, like cannibalism is just like, it's just one of those things that like I just really it makes me cringe. And I just feel like it makes this episode just very different than anything we've seen so far, like a big leap towards horror. Whereas the other ones, I just didn't see them as like horror. I just saw them more as just like supernatural fantasy.
Well, I think this episode telegraphs what this show does and is going to do going forward, which is subverting all expectations. I mean, there's a lot of things where we can like, oh, well, we've never seen him before, so he's going to die. I mean, we can make those predictions, but, we took a character, like you said, a character that has been established and is recurring, and he got eaten. So, thing, of course, that most of us love about the show is that it's what makes it so different from your average show is that there's just kind of that unpredictability.
No one's safe.
Yeah, we get that a little bit more now with like, that was something that, for example, Game of Thrones was like really touted as doing, killing off characters that you never expected, like big lead characters that you never expected. But I guess like when it's in the context of like modern fiction, rather than in fantasy, that's where it for me becomes more horrific. Like, I mean, there's plenty of horrifying things that happen to characters in Game of Thrones, for example, and lots of unexpected stuff, but I don't really associate it with the horror genre because I always am able to sort of separate the fact that like, yeah, that's a fantasy world though, whereas a principal being eaten, that's just like, that just feels so horrific to me, in a way that like really like makes it very, very, very horror. I'm open to how I'm going to feel about the rest of the series, but I will say that like, I don't know if I can stomach too many episodes of, where we have themes of that kind of stuff, like, like eating babies and trying to eat a family and stuff and eating the principal, like, and that's just mostly because horror is just a genre that I'm not really crazy about.
And for someone like me, because you all know horror is my genre,
Yes.
This may be my favorite episode so far. I hated last week's. Absolutely, completely, and utterly hated it.
The Don't Kill a Boy on a First Date one, the last one.
Yes.
Yeah, that was actually my least favorite one of the whole season.
It was terrible.
That one was so goofy.
Do I want to come back? And then I read the synopsis for this one. I was like, yeah, I'm going to come back. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the hyena stuff. I will agree with John. I'm not into like the horror stuff, and I'm not into like the cannibalism stuff, and it just got me. I honestly would have liked werewolves a little bit better, I think. But yeah.
Yes. I thought it was creative that they went the hyena route, and I thought it was interesting. You know, it is going to be tough for me to not look at Xander for at least a while. It's gonna be hard for me to like climb back from this on that character. Yeah, I'm gonna always remember the things that he did in this episode, even though he was possessed. It's just, it doesn't matter. Like, he was possessed in a way that he still felt like Xander, just a nastier version of himself.
Right, a heightened version of his want for Buffy. Yeah,
that's gonna be hard to forget.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. I feel the same way. I will, just to reassure everyone, we do not have any babies eaten in the rest of the series. There's no more eating people. I promise. Okay.
Right.
Unless you're a vampire, you might eat somebody.
Well, I mean, yeah, the regular vampire.
Yeah, I don't mind a vampire maybe like biting on somebody's neck or something like that. But
the cannibalism is not a big theme.
Y'all were talking at the same time. I got nothing.
I was just saying the cannibalism is not a major theme in this series.
No.
It's not even a minor one other than that.
Right. What were you guys?
Oh, I was just saying there are no other hyena-possessed humans eating other humans in the rest of the series.
That's very specific. But that's very specific, but I'll take it. That's at least somewhat reassuring.
I mean, to be fair, that's what we have trouble with in this episode. So we're saying this episode won't be repeated.
Yeah.
I will say, it definitely, I was creeped out. I remember I watched this that night by myself at home in the dark when this came on, and I was definitely creeped out, especially by that cut you said that was weird, John, with the willow and then cut to black. Freaked me out. But, especially being a girl home alone by yourself at night, it was just creepy. But I feel like this definitely solidified it as a horror genre show. We're obviously going to get deeper into seasons. Remember, I said this is a prologue. We're going to get deeper into things, but you won't have to worry about humans being eaten alive.
I actually really like that moment when he's like Willow, because it goes back to that folklore that, they stalk their victims and learn their names and, call them out. It was like you got to witness what he had been saying before. So I thought that was actually one of the better moments in terms of the story.
It reminded me of the movie Willow, because there's a part in the movie Willow where one of the characters goes, Willow. If anybody remembers.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. That's so true. You did that so perfectly.
Right? Thank you.
Yes.
I practiced. Me and my sister used to do it a lot. We practiced as kids. We were really into that movie.
Would anyone else like to come up on the couch? Are there any newbies to the show who'd like to give their opinions on this episode?
I'm gonna take off. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks for joining, Jody.
Bye, Jody.
I wasn't too bothered with it. And it's a bit weird, but like Doctor Who has done episodes that are, at the same level or even worse.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the episode I mentioned earlier with Anthony Head as the vampire school principal. I mean, he literally eats a little girl in his office who doesn't have like parent.
Oh my god, yeah,
So-
that I wouldn't be into though. Like
Right,
I
so,
couldn't
like,
do it. I couldn't do it.
It almost seems like if you're able to do it right, then it's passable. And then if you don't quite nail it, then it does sort of leave you uneasy. I don't know. This one didn't bother me too much. It actually it did kind of remind me of I don't know, like lame horror almost. Not like like the perfectly cleaned pig bones and everything. Like they tried really hard. You can tell that they tried really hard not to make it gory. You know what I mean? So there was there wasn't a drop anywhere. It was just bone white, clean bones, and they didn't show any actual deaths. And it almost seems like the writers are definitely like, because this is still only in episode 6 of a season 1, it's like they're trying to find their footing, and they're maybe trying to cement or solidify. We're not going to be a weak show. It is going to be cutting edge, and we're going to, like it almost seems like they're probing, like kind of getting feelers out there to see what will work and what won't, going down the line. I don't know. It didn't bother me too much. But it's also, of the 6 episodes so far, it's not like high up there for me.
Can you guys imagine if this was made now for network TV? Like how horrifically brutal,
so
gore it would be. It would be out of this world.
But could you also imagine the content warning, like all the little all the little labels up in the top corner? It'd be like 15 of them.
Like for me,
I think you're right though. They're learning, and they're seeing just how far they can push it, and it still remain acceptable.
Gore is not a problem for me.
Oh, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, gore is not a real problem for me. Like, I actually think that the gorier something is, the more I kind of, it actually, like,
it's funnier.
It doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother me as much. It's more, I have a problem with really bad psychological horror. Like torturing. I have a real problem with torturing, and I have a real problem with like, just realistic depiction of violating, and like eating somebody is like the ultimate in violating, right? Like you literally consumed them, and I don't need to see it in any like gory fashion for it to really deeply bother me. And the more gory it is, the more it starts to actually even detract from the really disturbing aspects of consuming somebody, of like making them so worthless that they're eaten, by you. Like that intense like power differential is just like really makes me uneasy.
I think the imagination gets in the way. Like I used to say that I would rather watch a horror movie than read a horror movie, because my imagination will be a lot worse than what they're going to put on the screen. So I actually think sometimes the taking the camera away actually makes it worse, because now the image is going to be in my head. I'm going to imagine what's.
Totally. It's the reason why a lot of that stuff that we've seen so far with like, lots of prosthetic makeup and, and weird teeth and all that stuff, it just doesn't really bother me, or do I even find it scary, even if it was, full of blood and chewing people apart and stuff, because it doesn't really look realistic, and therefore it doesn't bother me, right? But the fact that we don't see the pig get eaten, the fact that we don't see him, the principal be eaten, like my mind actually is able to imagine the real pictures of what that looks like.
Right, because it's just like, it's the opposite of show don't tell. Like, we know if they showed us, like you said, we'd be focused on the gore and stuff, but whereas we have to imagine it. It's like you brought up Game of Thrones before. It's like season 5 with Sansa. We never see what's happened to her on screen. We just imagine it and know that it's awful, and that's what makes it such a head screw, that we don't know, but we know it's bad. Like here, if they had shown it, especially with this being network television, they probably would have killed him first and then done the eating, but you kind of assume that didn't happen. Let's get more into it. But, you know, and that's what makes it harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there was no way to do a content warning either at the start of this without spoiling. You can't be like, also trigger warning for anyone that doesn't like little pets being killed, right? Because like when you see the pig, you're like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, I kind of went to the group about, you know, the trigger warnings, and I mentioned, you know, the sexual assault part with Xander, but I didn't know whether I should even ask her, because, you know, then it gives it away. And yeah,
it's so specific.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, John, I know that, for example, you and I don't always, you know, agree on how to interpret some of these things. But I'm with you. This is, whoa. This is, yeah. I'm not a big horror person. I enjoy the humor. And I'm very impressed with Buffy, who seems to be able to do just about anything, be a cheerleader, play dodgeball, slay vampires, outrun hyenas. And, you know, she is a true superhero. But some of this stuff is pretty creepy.
Yeah. And also just seeing her fear, you know, like seeing her fear in the sexual assault scene also was really disconcerting. You know, I really wanted her to just, like, with her slayer strength, kick him across the room.
Oh, truth.
You know, but they kind of,
and it was his talking that I think disconcerted her, because he was right. He was someone who knew her secrets. So more than just physically overcoming her, he put her in a vulnerable position because he could expose her or use her secrets against her.
Well, the whole thing was just, you know, the whole scenes was just disconcerting for a variety of reasons. But I agree with that too, Mary. It was, you know, it was sort of an abuse of power on both a physical and psychological level.
The interesting thing that I thought was, from when you brought up, Julie, the dodgeball, is it seemed like the pack knew they couldn't overcome her. So when she was the only one left on the other side, they turned and started hitting the other kid instead of trying to get her. It's like they didn't want to go up again.
I think they were hammering home that preying on the weak thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in general, the theme of this episode was all about preying on the weak. It was all about, like, bullying and preying on the weak, and you know, consuming somebody is sort of like as the ultimate form of that. You know, they showed it they showed it in ways that are familiar to us, you know, bullying in the very, like, classic sense, people like eating your lunch and, you know, and smacking you with a dodgeball, and then, like, in the most, like, you know, the most extreme form of horror, which is I will eat you, you know, or I will eat your beloved, you know, which is sort of, you know, I mean, I know that, like, the pig wasn't anybody's pet specifically, but, like, you know, they already kind of painted the pig as just, like, this little friend of the schools, you know, that, like, the school has a relationship to, you know. So to me, it's just like, it really is like it wasn't about eating a pig. It was about consuming your friend.
Yeah, I mean, they personified. Yeah, they personified the pig, like, on purpose. Like, they gave him humanity specifically to make his death more of a gut punch, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, John, like, they were preying the weak, and all, but also the theme is, you know, what happens when people unexpectedly get power, you know, or it's kind of touched on a little bit in other episodes, like especially Witch, like the mother is very powerful and she does what she wants with it. And here they are possessed, but they got power and ran amok with it. And you mentioned Buffy, you know, you just wanted her to kick Xander across the room, but he was able to, you know, diminish her with what he knew and take away some of her power.
I think you guys were talking about the dodgeball scene where they turned on the weaker of the two, on that guy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that guy.
I think in nature, that is the way packs work of hyenas. Like, given two opponents, they're going to choose the weaker. I think they shy away from strong opponents because they just know, like, too strong, we're going to walk away. I think that's the way hyenas work.
Yeah, it's definitely the way they work, but it's also the way, you know, bully groups in school
Oh,
work
yeah.
too.
They don't prey on somebody that's stronger than them. No way, you know. They'll lose. And they know she's stronger than they are.
But you have to admit, the episode really, it definitely got us talking about it.
Heck yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, this theme of, like, you know, what happens when people get power, like a lot of power very quickly. You know, how that transforms a lot of people.
Didn't Xander sort of seem like the leader of that little pack for a while there, though? Yeah, I thought that was kind of
Yes, he did.
Strange.
And we saw where his mind went, which is very, very just.
Yeah. I love Xander. He's my favorite male so far. Willow is my favorite character. I just love little Willow. She is so precious.
I have a feeling Willow's gonna get. I think Willow's gonna get awesome in this series. Like, she's gonna start learning how to do a few back kicks of her own.
Regina, what do you think? You're a new viewer. Haven't heard much from you.
I've been trying to, like, squeeze in a word, but there's just been so much natural conversation flowing that it's been kind of difficult to get a word in. But I mean, I've been enjoying listening to everyone. It has allowed me to process the episode, though, kind of listening to everyone, and I don't hate it by any means, but I also don't love it either. I like the idea of this theme being explored where the innocent are not safe. Like, no one is safe from the horrors or so that are birthed from, like, the Hellmouth or whatever. And as I was listening to John speak in, like, specifically when he was talking about, like, what he didn't like, I found that this episode took some pretty gutsy moves. It took some risks. In a society like ours, usually we don't like seeing, you know, children, women, and animals harmed. And in this episode, we got, like, all three of them, like, either close to being harmed or actually harmed. And not to mention, choosing the hyenas to be the pack and what possesses the kids instead of, like, what most people expected, with it being werewolves, kind of subverts the expectations. And again, that's another gutsy move as well. For me, though, it didn't affect me as much as it did some people. To me, and we kind of talked about, like, what if Buffy or a similar show like this were made in 2021, 2022, right? It'd be more gory, it'd be more macabre. And that's what I was thinking the entire time. Like, you know, I've seen worse. I could see worse in the contemporary television landscape. So it didn't affect me that way either. But in the same vein too, this isn't one of my top episodes either. I was like, okay. I saw it. On to the next one. If that makes sense. If you guys were picking up what I was putting down.
I picked it up. I got it in my hand. We're good. Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone here. Like I definitely wasn't as bothered by it the first time I saw it as other people are, but it sat with me for a while. And again, like I watch the show all the time. So every once in a while something would happen, I'm like, wow, they really have to live with that memory. Like, it just pop up for no reason. And yeah, it's disturbing. It is. But I feel like you have a badge at this point to where you can say, I made it past this episode in season 1.
Oh, okay. So this is like the worst of season 1 in terms of like, or the hardest.
It is.
Yeah. I also like in general, bullies really bother me. Especially in fiction, which I think typically kind of goes a little overboard. Bullying is just like, I have a big problem with it. And especially in this context with like a bunch of cool kids with bravado, like coming in and, that all of those tropes, like sticking your finger in somebody's like food and, just, ugh. I just find it so gross. And so I think that might also be affecting how I feel about the episode.
I think it's funny how they did that. Actually, they used the bullies and sort of kept them as bullies, like pack bullies. But then they also grabbed like the nice guy and threw him in there, and then he ends up being sort of like the worst of the bullies. So it was interesting how they did that. Like they started off showing a pack of bullies, and then just kind of sort of kept them as a pack of bullies. But then they took the sweet kid as well, and then tried to do it with him as well to good effect, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe
I mean, it was funny that
possession affects them.
Yeah, although, yeah, I was going to say that because I think that is the interesting thing, is that like the other ones, they really didn't transform all that much. I mean, except, that probably they wouldn't have eaten a principal beforehand, but like they were just as gross before they got turned into the, the possessed hyenas, exactly, as they were when they were the possessed hyenas. They just weren't willing to actually, commit murder, but they were still power hungry kids who were preying on the weak.
One thing that I don't think I've ever questioned, but it popped into my mind tonight: why is there a cage in the library?
I always thought it, because Giles.
I was waiting for someone to bring that up.
My guess is that the library has maybe a special collection or something that is really valuable. But
it had the little slot for like feeding prisoners. That was like a prisoner cage.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like one of those, like, I don't know, maybe like. I'm just trying. I'm trying to come up with some justification. Like, I was gonna say maybe it's the book deposit, or maybe there's somebody back there slides the book in there. Yeah, maybe it's the after hours book deposit. It's the after hours book deposit. You just drop your book and it just falls behind there.
I thought it was funny that it was made of like wire, which was like the same thing that, like, the pig cage actually looked more substantial than the wire cage that he was behind. I was like, oh, well, I mean, that's not going to work.
Yeah, I assumed it was, Giles is a book guy, and you saw the book that he had in this episode. It's very old, so I assumed that his cage was meant to lock up like valuable.
I will say more than a cage, what's a cage doing in a library? I'm questioning what the heck are those super ancient books doing in this high school library?
I assume they're Giles's.
He brought them with him.
Yeah,
he brought all of those with him.
He has to have source material.
He came from London. He was like at the British Museum. Who else could get like weird books but someone?
All right, big suitcase.
Of course, Giles brought all his Watcher books.
I wouldn't be surprised if he brought them all over in trunks, not suitcases.
Yeah, right. How many suitcases would that be?
I mean, I assume he brought his car with him. So if he can bring the car, he can bring.
John, do you have any, or anybody who hasn't watched this yet, do you guys have any predictions now going forward of what might happen?
No, this episode was very much like a Monster of the Week episode.
I was just about
doesn't
to
have
say it's classic Monster of the Week is all I'm expecting.
Yeah, it doesn't have any real. I mean,
next episode's title is Angel.
Yeah, I know, and I can see the thumbnail, and the thumbnail is already telling me something. Yeah, but it's not possible the way that they have these shows on streaming services. You can't possibly click on one right before without seeing it. So yeah, I see the thumbnail. It's very clearly telling me what mainly is going to happen. Like it, the mythology continues. Like the master is trying to get out of there. Now he's got a little boy as like the anointed one. So my prediction is that in the next episode, the master is going to do some more stuff that's going to get him closer to getting out. Because it's Angel, and so that episode and Angel himself is so tied to that larger mythology that there's just no way that they're going to have Angel in an episode that's like a Monster of the Week.
Or would they? Dun, dun, dun.
I'm going to go so far as to say, no, they wouldn't.
Maybe it's the werewolves.
That's simple. I guarantee we will not see in this season. We will not see Angel in an episode that is just a simple Monster of the Week. I wouldn't be surprised if we do not ever see it at all in this entire series. That I feel pretty confident in.
Wait, say that again.
I need to repeat that.
I need to hear that clearly.
Angel will not be in an episode that is not in some way tied to the larger like mythology episodes, these serialized episodes that deal with like something greater than all of these like just little one-off Monster of the Week episodes. We're not going to see Angel involved in any episode that has got like just some random monster that she's dealing with that has nothing to do with like this bigger mythology of like, of the master and the Hellmouth and all of that. Like he's not going to be in an episode with like a bug teacher is basically what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
X-Files used to do that.
So I find that an interesting prediction, John, of yours. I look forward to seeing how you feel it comes through.
It doesn't feel like a prediction for me. It's just, it just doesn't, he doesn't seem tied to any of like any episode that would have just some random monster. He's always like, the whole mystery of that character is how he is associated with all of this other stuff that's going on that, has Buffy drawn to this school and has the master trying to come out, right? Like that's the main thing that makes Angel mysterious. So like, where would Angel, like what would Angel's place be in an episode like The Pack? What would Angel's place be in an episode like Teacher's Pet or The Witch? It just, it feels like it would feel weird. Whenever I see Angel, I think, okay, we still haven't figured out exactly how he fits into all of this. And there is no all of this in The Pack. There is no all of this in The Witch. There is no all of this in Teacher's Pets. That's why they're Monster of the Weeks.
That's true.
Okay.
Where's Buffy's mom some of these times? I still think about that whenever you watch the show.
She's setting up an entirely new, like, museum or whatever in this very, very small town that didn't have one probably. And she's not noticing because she works on long hours. She's a single working.
True. Here's a question for you guys that are new. So we now know that Principal Flutie is gone. Do you guys feel like we'll get to meet somebody new that might matter, or do you think that they just don't want to deal with school administrators other than Giles?
I don't know. I can't imagine that they won't bring in a new principal character because it's a high school. And the principal is a pretty important character in a high school. So I'm sure that there will be a new principal and they will probably become a recurring character as well.
So you don't think maybe the writers thought, oh, we don't need to have somebody other than Giles be a figurehead?
Nope, no way. I mean, I don't think that I'm not necessarily thinking that the principal will become some sort of important role in Buffy. They might. I don't know. That I'm not sure. I'd have to meet them when they're introduced, but they will be introduced.
They could probably bring in a big bad for the principal, like a secret. Later on.
Yeah,
I feel like in a show like this, like any new character that they introduce, there's like a 50-50 chance that they're going to be a big bad.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine what like a writer's room looks like when they're talking about all kinds of stuff, like, you know, now that the principal's dead, what do we do there? You know, like, and I just can't imagine a scenario where they're not thinking, you know, we should bring in another principal character and figure out a way to bring them into the story, or that they wouldn't hit a spot in the story and they'd be like, hey, this would be a really good point to bring in a new principal teacher. You know, I'm imagining like what, like that at that time, I'm sure that there was, you know, a casting call for an actor to play the new principal. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's probably going to be somebody that will be important to some plot point in the series. And yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good guess, that they would end up being like a big bad, or they would end up being, you know, some sort of important character that is evil. But they might just also be like a new recurring character as well, and that's
totally. It could also it could be, since you mentioned writing room, that this was the plan all along, like that they had wanted to introduce, you know, because obviously you got Buffy, who is like, you know, the good person permanently stuck at the school, and they're like, wouldn't it be cool if we had her antagonist with her, you know what I mean, like at the school, like have the bad there as well. So maybe that was always the plan, to have a few episodes with, you know, some guy and then get rid of him in some goofy way, or, you know, gory way, whatever, and then bring in who they always intended to be the principal. I mean, I don't know.
Or maybe not always intended to be the principal, but that they now, with this open slot, they can really go big.
Yeah.
They can like, okay, well, let's bring in a really cool new character that is just, I mean, it just seems like a wonderful opportunity. And, you know, writers are always looking for opportunities to bring in really interesting new characters. Right now, it feels actually kind of a little small, to be honest. The soap opera is actually a much smaller cast than you get on typical soap operas. It's just the three kids, Giles and Angel. That's it. The Master, maybe, but the Master feels like I said, doesn't feel like a character. It feels more just like an antagonistic tool. But, you know, typically in soap opera, you have Cordelia. You have way more than Cordelia as well, yeah. But you typically have way more than that, you know. And I just feel like I don't know, maybe 90s were different, but I just think that they probably have another at least 3, maybe 5 characters that are going to be, you know, well-remembered characters on this series. And well-remembered characters would have to be characters that have like story arcs, or are very important parts of story arcs, you know, over many episodes, several episodes at the very least, or large portions of a season. And the principal seems like a pretty obvious one.
I'm enjoying this chatter about what you predict to happen.
Yeah, I like it too. Because, you know, obviously they needed a principal for Buffy to check in with when she shows up at school, because it's the school year's already started. It's not like the very first day of school and all that kind of stuff. She's coming in. So I just was kind of curious what your thoughts were on that, because they introduced the character and now 6 episodes in, he's gone. So I just, some shows you don't see a whole lot of school administrators when they're set in schools, and some you do. So I just wanted to know what y'all thought.
They killed the principal off a couple of times in Smallville too.
Smallville. Yeah, they had their weird monsters and stuff too, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
It's kind of like with Harry Potter, like every season every book there's a new
dark
defense
arts
against the dark arts teacher. Yeah.
I read a theory that was like because of a curse. There was like a curse literally on that position, and that no teacher would ever do it for more than like one.
Yeah, there was a curse and Voldemort put it on there.
Maybe there's a curse on the principal at the Hellmouth too. I mean, it is a school built on top of the Hellmouth. Who wants to have that?
Do you think Flutie knew that though?
Oh, Flutie was clueless. I don't think so.
Yeah, I imagine Flutie didn't know. He seemed like a pretty nice guy. He even had a cute little picture of himself in his office.
Wasn't that funny? Who puts a picture of themselves standing alone? Like, it's not like it's a picture of him and like his family. He's standing alone and faces it out to the people looking at him. Like, you need a picture of yourself in front of yourself?
Yeah, that's weird. That's really weird. I thought that was weird too.
Well, maybe Flutie just liked it. He liked that picture of himself.
Yeah, he's proud
of the hedgerow.
I am excited for the next episode, though.
You hoping to learn more about Angel?
Yeah, he's pretty good looking. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know if I will love next week. I'm more of a monster of the week kind of person. So
listen, you have to absorb all of them, Kendra. Just stick with us.
I know.
Just stick with us. You can't have the good without the slower one.
The ones I don't care for to get to the ones I love.
But
if I have to do it for Maisel, you have to do it for this one.
That's one of the things I like about the show, though, Kendra. They do a good mix of serial and monster of the week. It's just, and sometimes you get a little of both in an episode, and I like that about this series in general, because it's not just super focused on one thing all the time.
Yeah, it's a good mixture so far, and we're not too deep into it.
And yeah, this monster of the week was kind of hard to stomach at times. I agree with that, but I think they just wanted to show how horrific they could be, maybe. I don't know, or maybe they wanted to deal with the possession thing and get out of the way.
Well, I mean, it also goes to show that, like, if they had just picked terrible people to be possessed by terrible spirits, we would just say, oh, they brought out that person's terrible nature. They were always like that. But Xander was a sweet guy. And so it goes to show that, like, all people have both sides to them. Even if all you ever see is the sweet guy, there was some stuff there that it pulled out on. Like, it's a contrast of his character, that this was a way for them to, like, tap into that. I'm not particularly fond of it, but I can see how story-wise that could be something that could draw them to want to talk.
It's also kind of a throwaway, right? Because, like, you can have one of your main characters, even a sweet character, be possessed and do evil stuff, and then dispossessed, and then he's not, then he's fine, right? So, like, it's kind of a throwaway as well, like that mechanism, the possession, to be able to have someone do something, awful, and then dispossess them, and then be like, no, it was just that, it was, I was just drunk that night,
Yeah, like blaming it on the possession so we all can easily forgive. and move along and still accept the character for what we think he should be.
Yeah, and it's funny because they almost did that, and then didn't. Like right at the end, they're like, they showed that he was aware of what he did and did have the memories, and I'm like, oh, so it wasn't completely a throwaway. Like he knows what he did, and Giles knows that he knows what he did. You know, so that was an interesting way to take that possession.
Is that to show us that he has to live with what he did, or is that to show us that he is aware and knows that he has that in him?
I'd say both.
I'd have to imagine it's a little of both, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because I agree with Shiv that it's almost like too easy to just say, oh, he doesn't remember anything he did. He was possessed and he doesn't remember anything he did. It's like, okay, well then that was almost like quote unquote a fun experience, like something took over me. But to have to actually live with what you did and know that you were capable of actually doing something like that. I think those were probably the.
Hey folks, I'm gonna head out. Thank you, Hunter, Anna, for hosting.